Hey guys, Rodney Walker here at Grand Central USA, and I'm excited today to bring a special guest, none other than Julie Truong. She is the president of Leadership Savvy. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, Julie. Julie and I have been knowing each other for a number of years now, and I'm so excited about all that she's doing and how she's making a tremendous difference in the nonprofit sector and everything. So I'm excited to bring her today. Julie, tell us about what you do these days.
Pre-COVID or post-COVID?
Both. Give us both.
Yes. So I've always been in the nonprofit sector, mostly helping executives with meeting their wild, crazy dreams, right? We're all striving to live in a different world. Status quo is not good enough. So those are the visionaries, the change leaders that I get behind. And as their strategy consultant, we get the job done. So prior to COVID, it was a lot of team development and partnership strategy. Who do we need to work with, get it to the table to get this stuff done? More recently, with COVID, a lot of leaders are thinking more inwardly. What am I doing with my career? What am I most passionate about? So I've been doing a lot of one-on-one executive coaching as well.
That's awesome. And who better? Julie has just a special little fire and knack and working with people in a great way. And we've had an opportunity to do a lot of work together in different capacities. Julie, with everything that's going on right now, with the shifts, what have you been seeing on the horizon? You say some of these nonprofit executives and these leaders have been doing things different. What's been the biggest difference that you've noticed so far?
It's been really actually interesting to work with the different organizational leaders. I describe them as they're operating in really different ways. So when COVID hit, one group, it just did what I call, they were paralyzed. They were so surprised at what happened that they thought, we're just gonna wait it out. So they put everything on pause. And of course they kept communicating with their staff, their teams, their funders, but they weren't sure how long COVID would last. So they went into this pause mode. As a consultant, that worries me, right? If you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. So with them, we gently went through scenario planning and came up with a new plan of action. Then on the flip side, I had executive leaders who were like, oh my God, crisis is opportunity. Our people need us. So what can we do? Let's throw away the strategic plan we have, look at what resources we have right now, understand what the community needs are, and completely do a 180-degree pivot. So as a consultant, those were the projects that really I got fired up over because they were ready to do something different, right? And oftentimes, as grant writers, as employees, as consultants, we can see what that organization needs to do, but they're a little scared. So COVID did something. It put some magic in the water where half the organization said, yeah, let's take time to really plan. And the other half said, let's just go for it. But I think in both examples, now that we are 6 months in, both types of organizations have actually led to some pretty innovative outcomes.
Wow, that's exciting. And sometimes that is so true. We just pause in life and don't go forward. And it's exciting to see that you've been able to work with both groups, one that were moving forward, as well as those that were kind of going a little slower to kind of help get them going down the road. That's exciting. And I have a number of grant writers that are here, and they're going to be curious to know, like, how do we work with these executives? We're going to get to that in just a second. But before we do so, Julie, tell me a little bit more. So you've been working with them, and then both of these groups that you just got to make a mention of, one kind of pushed forward, the other one pushed forward with some innovative ways. What would you say to leaders that are out there right now that are kind of maybe stuck in between, not going too fast, but still kind of going real? So what would you say to kind of help them during this time of everything that we kind of got going on?
Mm-hmm. So maybe you've been in pause mode for the 6 months. Maybe you tried some things, piloted some things, and now you're wondering, is it time to regroup? I certainly felt that running my own company too. I think it's actually really healthy every 2 or 3 months to go back to the drawing board and give yourself a mini retreat, whether it's you and your leadership team, you as a grant writer yourself, and just make sure that the path you're on is your intentional path that you are going to get the most joy and satisfaction and outcomes from. So take that time, just like Rodney just said, like do that pause. But when you do the pause, I would ask yourself two things. The first one is this my purpose, my mission? Because a lot of times when we work in times that are busy, we end up straying because we just kind of follow where the winds are taking us. And unless we really pause and remind ourselves, is this really where I want to be? You might stray a little too far. So use this grounding moment to remind yourself, is this really what our mission and our passion and our purpose is? And once you have that clarity, make sure you communicate. So point number 2 is make sure you're communicating out to the people that you work directly with, to the clients, to the people who are impacted by your work, and also amplify it. Tell it to the world through social media, through articles. Don't keep it a secret. Rodney and I, we always talk about like what it means to just put stuff out into the universe and it comes. So those would be the 2 things: is take some time to regroup, think about your purpose, and make sure you don't keep it to yourself. Share it with the world.
That's awesome. I love the little imagery there of going on that personal retreat and having that be something that's taking place every 2 to 3 months. With that being the case, is that something that you encourage all the leaders that you're working with to kind of do something like that? And are there some other tools of some things that they may want to look at to kind of help enhance that?
Yes. So I really believe being in leadership is a tough gig. There's so much you are responsible for, right? So this business strategy, the operations, the risk management, the technology, the staff, the grant writing. I mean, the list is enormous. So if you personally can take some time, many grant writers are business owners themselves, entrepreneurs. So take that time, that mini retreat, to do some of that business planning. Are you in the types of work that you most enjoy and are good at? Does the world know that? Do you have clients that you enjoy working with? Their missions are truly what you believe in. It's a lot harder to write a good grant if you don't think they're great people, right? I have had clients like that too, where I thought, I don't know if I believe in them enough. But the ones that you do, and they absolutely just have this fire that cannot fail, you want to be a part of that team. Yeah. So align yourself with the correct energy. And I think it's really healthy to share that with your team, that this is all the growth process. We're all learning together. Let's regroup and pivot and try again.
Exactly. I love it. And those are some really good analogies. Pivot, making turns, pause and stop, listening, all that good stuff. That's fantastic. So Julie, I have these grant writers here, and wonderful group of people. They are wanting to know, how do they connect with these executives? And will you share with us briefly, you've had a long history with working with especially a lot of nonprofit executive directors. And I'd love to get some insight from you about working with them. But before we do that, will you share with us some of your experience, some of your background? Because you've even not just only trained them, but you hired a number of them and are still coaching and developing a lot of leaders in that way today. So tell us a little bit about your background, and then let's go into like some practical ways that our nonprofit professionals can work more effectively with these executive directors.
Great. So I've been on both sides of the table. I've been on the grant writing table as well as the grant distribution table. So I understand the challenges on both sides. I have been a grant writer while working inside organizations, and have a really good track record. I feel pretty lucky that I have figured out kind of the magic sauce behind the grant writing formula. Rodney, him and I align very closely with that formula. That's why we like working together. But that started about 20 years ago for me, my grant writing journey. And the last 10 years, I've shifted more into the consulting role and recruiting role. So working with other grant writers, hiring other executive leaders who then work on funding strategy and hire other grant writing consultants. And so that relationship that you talk about, whether or not you guys work as a team or as just hired labor, it's 2 totally different relationships. And some grant writing consultants don't mind being just the hired labor, but others want to be a part of the strategy. So I think it's very important if you're a grant writer that you are clear on where you want to play because then your approach with that particular executive and organization would differ.
I love it. So that's something that, with that being said, it would be something that would be done on the front end. And I like that you position that. Hey, you got to think about this on the front end before it happens, because once that ship starts going, it's pretty hard.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to shift it and take it in a different direction.
Mm-hmm. It's just like any new relationship. For that first few minutes, days, weeks, you're getting a feel for each other. And so what you put out there is what they're going to expect you to continue to be. So if you are somebody who needs partnership, you want to identify one staff person within the agency to be your thought partner. Make that very clear. Let them know that I am the type of grant writer that finds the most success when I can partner with a program person, so that I'm making sure that I'm up to date on any program updates and results. I know other grant writers who are very independent. They just need to know the general direction of the organization, see the strategic plan, and operate very independently and write those grants, maybe have final editing and approval from the leadership team or executive director. But otherwise, they're very independent. That you would want to be very straightforward with as well. You give me all the information, ask the client for it, and then expect me to not talk to you for the next 2 weeks, right? I'm just going to be writing. But if you're not clear with that, they're going to wonder, where's my grant, right?
Exactly.
they're going to wonder if you've forgotten about them. So, but if you put it on the front end that your process is pretty independent, they should just trust you. As long as you've made that clear at the beginning, that's important.
Yeah, very, very important. I think looking at those ways and being able to say, okay, great, hey, here's what we're dealing with right now. Here's where we got to go, and then figuring out something that's going to really kind of work well for you in that framework. Julie, what if you had to share with our grant professionals? Hey, here's some big no-nos that you want to avoid when dealing with these professionals. What would some of those no-nos be? And then, if you could take us in the opposite direction afterwards, about what are some of the things that you want to do more of this to kind of work effectively with an executive director?
All right. So no-nos. One thing I've seen is folks who are all business. So you come in, you're asking for the data, you're asking for past grant proposals so that you can immediately learn and dive right in. Many of those grant writing consultants aren't taking the extra time to build the relationship. So when you do that, you build in a relationship where you are seen more as an outsider, as hired labor. And yes, they may respect your expertise, your skills at writing, but they don't really get to know you as a person. And when things get tough, right? Maybe you got 2 or 3 proposals back to back that didn't get awarded, or you're having a hard time getting data from them.
Okay.
Rather than being seen as a nag, right? Somebody who is very needy or just isn't a competent grant writer, you haven't established the communication channels. You haven't built that relationship to have that open communication. So if you wait to do that after some difficult situations have happened, it's a little too late. So not just at the beginning, but even if you've had a seasoned client where you feel like you're a bit of an outsider, I would use this as an opportunity to say, hey, we're 6 months into the year. Can we have a quick strategy session? I actually have some small business consultants that I coach. And when they get into a rut with the client, they maybe have a misunderstanding, or they feel like they're not at the strategy table anymore. Use these timelines, these benchmarks as an excuse to create a table.
I love it.
And get everyone back on the same page and get them fired up again and excited for what you're going to do for the next 6 months or year.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. And it's a real practical way of just doing it. That seems so natural. And I love that as an example to keep that connectedness. I think sometimes we just forget that, hey, again, everything is about relationship, because at the end of the day, we're always dealing with people. That's a good point. What would you say in terms of, we got some of the things that we need to do. What would you say as some things that, okay, don't do this when working with these executives because it's another way of you shooting yourself in the foot. What does that look like?
Mhm. What comes to mind for me is when I coach some clients who absolutely have some amazing ideas, right? As grant writers, you have an outsider perspective, and that's wonderful. And so if you have a good relationship, if you are part of some strategy conversations, maybe it's just a planning call even, not a formal strategy session, you're able to bring up these ideas and see if they stick. But sometimes they don't stick. I would say don't take it too personally or too difficult. You may not know what that leader, what that program team is dealing with. There might be a lot of other things on their plate, and they just can't handle another shift or another new idea. And so they may ask you to do something that's not so exciting, or they might give you a project that isn't well thought out yet, and you need to just kind of figure it out. You may find that client to be really difficult in those moments, but just give them some credit, take a deep breath, and realize, is this really something you want to fight at this time, right? So know that with, with, with some clients, we get really worked up about it and it causes anxiety. We want to be able to give them the most value. But I have learned over time that choose which mountain you're going to try and to die on.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, guys, Julie is telling us to breathe in. Hold on. Breathe in, breathe out. Don't
We
take
need
it
that so much in today's day and age with all the news and yeah.
Exactly. Just chill out. Don't take it so serious because it's so easy to do, especially when you're doing business. It's your business, and it's easy for you to take it personal because you're involved in it. But I like the advice of choosing, picking and choosing which battles you want to fight or which mountains you want to climb, because not every one of them should be climbed. That's a great point. Julie, what would you say now with everything is shifting, all these changes that are taking place? You got some grant professionals out there that are saying, okay, great. Now, with everything that's turned upside down, they may be in a position like that person you told me about at the very beginning, the organization that kind of hit pause. What word of advice could you offer to some of our grant professionals that may be in that pause moment that need to make a shift to moving forward and connecting? Because sometimes it's like if they're not well established, connecting with a leader may be scary. What would you say to someone like that, and what words of advice could you share with them?
So organizations, it's so hard running a nonprofit. There's two avenues you can go. You can stay the course, or you can try and innovate. And most organizations end up having to do a little bit of both.
Okay.
So those are two approaches as a consultant, as a grant writer, as you go in. Which route are you going to ask them to take? And first, you have to feel them out as well. Which route do they want to take? If they're really mission focused and have a very specific, I'm thinking of a client who has this formula that's just down to a specific, like the details. It has to be done in a very specific way. That client, you know, that with COVID, with the economy, with the racial injustice going on, that's what's top of mind. If their project aligns well with that, then there's big opportunity there.
Okay.
If their project doesn't align with that, you're going to have to work with them on being laser focused on which funders to pursue. That's always best practice anyways. But I share that because the flip side are the ones who have more opportunity to pivot and to innovate. If that's the organization that you are at, who's really open to pivoting and innovation, they might be more comfortable with updating their programs to be able to help address basic needs during COVID with the potential, and already we're in it, the economic downturn, or with social justice and community safety, right? Since those are the big topics of the day, does your organization play in that space? Completely, partially, tangentially? There may be opportunities there for you. And so as a grant writer, I would bring some of those opportunities to the table and see if the organization is open to it. So they might feel a little bit of that paralysis,
Sure.
or just really sad that their particular cause is no longer as valid. But
Mhm.
if you might be able to get a little bit creative with it, right? If even if
Mhm.
I'm working with some youth agencies
Okay.
where they have to operate in the school, right?
Mm.
It's about healthy interactions between students and adults, and making sure that they have a social emotional well-being. Now everything's online. It's a
Mm.
totally different world. How do you serve children from so far away? And
Sure.
so they, one group I worked with did go through paralysis until they figured out how to make DIY kits,
Okay.
delivered them to the kids' homes.
Oh,
They
wow.
got funding now, or their funders have agreed to pay for that, those materials.
Uh-huh.
The past funders never wanted to pay for that kind of materials, right? And so that's a new project. The other one, completely, they just abandoned their in-person curriculum and then created a whole new online series. And they got $100,000 from foundations almost overnight, saying,
Wow.
we want you to move online. And the school district they were serving opened up their entire school district students to this nonprofit, something that they had always dreamed of, but just never had enough time to build one-on-one relationships with every school. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it's been wonderful to see those different innovations happening.
I mean, that's awesome because it really kind of paints a picture of what you've been sharing with us earlier about those two different extremes where it's massive opportunities. And these massive opportunities now are creating new ways of doing some things differently. And I love that. And it seems like with those two different extremes, would you say that those two different ways that you had with those two clients, has that been pretty much the norm that you've kind of seen around in this environment during this time? Is pretty much one of those two, or is it some more that we need to that have been like real dominant, or is it mostly those two?
You know, they seem to fall on either side of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So even when they innovate, it very much looks like their original program. So the
Mm.
take home kits is still based on the same model, the same curriculum, right?
Okay.
I had another organization use this time to finally update their software, their computer
Okay.
systems, their CRM. But those were updates. They're not really innovations. It's so that they can do more of what they do best. And that's totally fine, right? You have funders that can help you with those updates. On the flip side, it's the folks who are looking to do something different. And what I'm excited about for this flip side is these are the organizations who used to say, oh, in like maybe in 2 or 3 years, we'll be in a better position to innovate or
Uh-huh.
to try something different.
Yeah.
But since COVID hit, those timelines have been shrunk. And they're like, let's try it now. Let's just pilot it and see what happens.
Wow. That's cool. That's cool. So it does sound like those two are the dominant ones that you've kind of been faced. And I guess those of you that are grant professionals out there, this kind of gives you a good feel for the temperature of the lay of the land. And I think what you said a little earlier, Julie, is really good because if we look at it from the standpoint that, wow, there's a lot of opportunities here, you got to just get out there and take advantage of it. You started your consultant practice, what, how many months ago now?
Uh, Not quite a year. So right
Not
before,
even a full
yeah.
year. And so who better to talk about this than you? And you had some phenomenal success already and just putting yourself out there. What would you say to that person that is just now getting started? They
Mm.
have a business, they have a skill and they have a business and they have an ideal about launching and getting their self out there. What would you say to that person that's been some of your biggest takeaways from your journey that may be
Yes,
helpful?
you're absolutely right. I am in your shoes. I have my own company, and I would say two things. Make it very clear why you do this work. And I believe that it didn't come out of thin air, right?
Mm.
You might be brand new to grant writing, but there's something there in you. There's a passion, there's an expertise. Maybe you have always been a writer. Maybe you've had a way with words. Maybe you're great with data and you know how to synthesize information and make it compelling. Maybe you worked at another nonprofit where you saw programs firsthand, so you know how to talk about them. But don't just come out and say, I'm brand new to grant writing, hire me. tell your real story and connect it to why you are an effective grant writer. That's really what I've had to do. I don't start with, hi, I've only been a consultant for 10 months, right? I start with, I've been in the nonprofit industry for 20 years doing these 3 different areas that I love. And together they create this magic that now I can help partner with nonprofit leaders to help them meet their mission. So yeah, what is your story? That's number 1. Number 2 is your network. Rodney and I know over the years, it's all about the people we know. They are the ones who vouch for us. They're the ones who take a chance on us. They sign up for our classes. They try out what we teach them. It works. They tell their friends, right? We do what you can to build that network and to keep it and foster it. You'll see me a lot online, Julie Ha Truong. You can Facebook me or LinkedIn message me, connect with me. It's a space that I'm on a lot because I'm very grateful for those avenues to connect with other nonprofit professionals. We're in this together. Let's help each other be really successful to help the organizations we're serving.
That's awesome. And Julie, you don't sound like a beginner at all. At all. I mean, like, your expertise is very, very evident. And you've done a lot of work with so many leaders, helping so many people in so many different ways. I'm excited about what you are doing over at Leadership Savvy. And I know that those people that you're working with, those leaders, that they're the better because of the work that you're doing. If we were to just say, hey, Julie, where are you heading? Next 3 to 5 years with this business, what would you like for it to be? What do you want? What kind of impact and what are you looking to do? Tell us a little bit more about that as we get ready to wrap up.
Aww, nice. I haven't had a chance to really think about or talk about that for a while. So I'm glad you're asking. What I see when I look 5 years out is that it's no longer about me and my business. Already I'm starting to expand my network to be able to offer a wider set of solutions. I want to be a resource. I know I don't have all the answers. So as an executive coach, as a business strategist, a lot of times I work with executives to illuminate issues and ideas. And I'm not going to be the one to implement all of them. So I see something in 5 years that might be more coordinated in terms of really helping the industry in a broader way. But for now, I'm a leadership coach. I work a lot with organizations who are looking to amplify what they're doing. So if you're trying to do it not alone, but in partnership, or you're looking to potentially merge with another organization, those are the juicy conversations that I like to be a part of. Those when multiple organizations or businesses or community members are coming together to figure out their shared agenda. That's where I like to play. So that's where I am today. And in 5 years, I think it'll be even more apparent that community.
That's awesome. Well, guys, you know where Julie likes to play. Go connect with her. Julie, tell us where we can reach you. You said LinkedIn, I heard, and you said some other social media. Give us the address so we can come and connect with you. And you guys go and connect with my friend Julie.
So the easiest way is to go to leadershipsavvy.com. leadershipsavvy.com, and I have a website with some more information about me, and you can contact me just by hitting the contact me page. I also have a YouTube site. It's a Leadership Savvy site, and as I mentioned before, Facebook and LinkedIn. I'm also I post a lot of different resources on there, and I do free trainings a number of times a month. So I hope to see you at a future session.
That's awesome. Well, Julie, you've given us some very valuable insight and some good information to move us forward. And I'm sure that the grant professionals and others that have watched today, that they've been helped. Thank you for sharing that insight. You guys go follow Julie, and we will be connecting with you soon. So remember, guys, be brave, be bold, be brilliant, and always take charge. Have a good one.